With us today, we have three incredible companies whose work transforms the makers themselves. To chair our next discussion on social disruption is journalist Lisa Higgins. Lisa's work has been featured in many of the UK's newspapers, including The Times, The Daily Express, The Daily Mail, and The Daily Telegraph, or The Telegraph as it is. I'd like to invite Lisa to the stage and the panelists as well, so please join me in welcoming them.
Okay, thank you all for coming today to our panel discussion on social disruption and how creativity can act as a potent agent for social change. We are going to talk to representatives from three very different projects that help shine a light on some of the more challenged groups in our society. First, we have Kim Evans OBE, who is the chair of Clean Break, a theatre company working with women whose lives have been affected by the criminal justice system. Kim is a BAFTA-winning documentary maker who became head of music and arts at the BBC before moving to the Arts Council as executive director of arts and is now freelance. In 2007, she was awarded an OBE for her services to the arts. Clean Break was set up in 1979 by two women prisoners who believed that theatre could bring the hidden stories of imprisoned women to a wider audience. Still the only women's theatre company of its kind today, Clean Break continues to inspire playwrights around the complex theme of women and crime. Integral to this is the company's long-established theatre-based education and training programme that enables women offenders and those at risk of offending to develop personal, social, professional and creative skills leading to education and employment. Kim, thank you for coming along today. Can you say a little bit more of an introduction about your company, and then we'll watch a short clip.
Hi, it's really nice to be here. I guess you've heard a bit about what Clean Break is. I'm the chair of their board, so I'm not their artistic director, but I am somebody who really cares about all aspects of the company. And I really wanted to work with Clean Break because it brought together three things that I care passionately about: feminism, theatre, and the fight for justice. I never thought I'd find something that just had all three like that, but Clean Break did. And it's brilliant to be here today in a session about social disruption, because that's absolutely what Clean Break does. In fact, that's what all three of us do, I think, and probably some of you as well. The work we produce at Clean Break isn't always comfortable. It's not about people who conform to society's expectations. So, as Lisa said, Clean Break's a company that works with leading women playwrights and women who have been in contact with the criminal justice system. That means they've either been in prison or they're at risk of offending. And I guess it's about using the power of theatre to help women find their voice, to find their way in the world. And some of them do that by working on stage, and some of them do that just by using the skills that they've learned by working together and with us to really get their lives back on track. And what we want to do, I suppose, is stimulate a debate about the reasons why women are facing such challenges, why they offend. So I guess our strapline, as it probably is for all of us, is changing minds and changing lives. And I knew about Clean Break's work in theatre quite a long time before I had anything to do personally with the company, because I'd seen their work on stage, amazing playwrights like Lucy Kirkwood, Rebecca Lenkiewicz, Rebecca Pritchard, Alice Birch, Chloe Moss, Vivian Frantzman. They'd all been working with Clean Break, and if you wanted to see our work in theatre, we were at Soho Theatre in October. If you went to the Latitude Festival, and some of you look as if you might have done, we took a prison van there and did a play for an audience of 8 people at a time set in the prison van, so that you could really get a sense about a world that we might not have much experience of ourselves. But what I didn't know about Clean Break is the work that they did in education. And I only found out about that when I went into the building that Clean Break has in Kentish Town and saw the work that it did with women who were at risk or who had come out of prison. And then I began to go into prisons and other places in the community where those women are working. So I guess that gives you a sense of what the company does. We are very much an all-female company, and we're great at infiltrating, I guess, the bigger part of the sector. A lot of the writers that we work with are now there on mainstream stages. A lot of the women who came through our programs actually have gone on to be on stage or behind the scenes of the stage. And I guess we were particularly proud of the collaboration that we did with the Donmar Theatre on their 2 all-female Shakespeare productions. We did the Julius Caesar and then Henry IV. And the brilliant Phila Deloyd, who directed those, is such a supporter of ours. And those pieces started with workshops that we helped organize in prison, talking to women in prison, and then creating the framework for those Shakespeare productions with an all-female cast set in the framework of women in prison. So that was quite socially disruptive in its own way, infiltrating the West End with some amazing women telling stories and inverting Shakespeare in a way that made people stop and think about it in a new light. And I'll stop there, and we can talk about a lot
we've got
of
a
that
short
later.
video clip for Clean Break, please.
That's a good side. Clean Break truly have got a lot to offer.
You can get really good quality training and education.
The performances that I'm doing now, I just wouldn't have believed I would have been doing a year ago.
I've learned audition techniques, I've learned how to perform.
I'm meeting some really wicked people, I've got some good friends, and we have a laugh, do you know what I mean?
I will walk away from Clean Break with all these skills and be probably one of your best performers on big screen and TV.
There is a beautiful parrot and a wonderful bear.
Clean Break is a lively, women-only theatre company based in North London, which also provides a comprehensive education programme. We were set up in 1979 by 2 women who were prisoners at HMP Ascombe Grange in Yorkshire. When they were released, Clean Break became a touring theatre company of ex-offenders, taking stories of women in crime to a wider audience.
The experience of women and crime is still very much at the heart of what the company does, but also we have broadened our remit to work with women at risk of offending because of drug and alcohol use or mental health issues.
We have plenty of free courses available for women, including personal development and mental health support. But many of our courses are theatrical.
We do courses ranging from performance to writing for theatre to anything backstage, costume design, set design. Some of those have qualifications attached to them, and others of those are just introductions to a new range of different career opportunities.
We also offer a full support service on issues ranging from advice on welfare and benefits to support with court appearances, housing and a confidential listening service. There's financial help for students too.
If they have childcare, we can contribute towards affordable childcare costs, and then travel expenses within the Greater London area are paid for, and we also provide a lunch so that people can, if they're studying for a full day, can make sure that people have some food to sustain them.
Jennifer is taking 3 performance courses here at Clean Break. But to start with, she wasn't certain she could even get to 1 lesson.
The confidence had completely gone. I'd never imagined it would, but it did. I hadn't ridden a train for 17 years since I had my second child. And just in order to get to Clean Break, I had to get back on the train. And I did. I conquered that particular fear because my passion to be here was so strong.
This is an experience shared by many other women here.
I knew about Clean Break when I was in prison 10 years ago, and I tried to get here 3 years ago. I came for an interview, but I wasn't living in London at the time. It's taken me a decade to get here, basically, but I made it in the end. Being creative it's invaluable for me anyway, to be able to express how I'm feeling in a healthy environment. You know, we all have emotional issues, and to be able to get it out vocally or by writing or drawing or movement is a safe way to express those feelings.
We're a non-faith-based organisation, yet we encourage all our members to express their own personal feelings and thoughts through performance and poetry.
I put down the drugs, I feel better already. Within a month, things have evened out and I'm feeling more steady. I walked past you the other day. You looked a mess and your hair was grey. You hadn't shaved or changed your clothes. I could still see the remnants of cocaine on your nose. I was on my way to church and I looked great. You were waiting for a dealer and you looked a state. Thank you for keeping me safe and clean. Life without you is so serene. And as I have a smile on my face, I can now go to bed and sleep feeling God's grace.
For women leaving Clean Break, there are various options. Some have discovered a passion for learning and go on to university. Others go on to further training or volunteering, or take jobs in a related field.
About 70% of the women who come and work with us go on to a positive kind of outcome post leaving Clean Break. So I'd really encourage women to come as a stepping stone to what they want to go on to do.
You first, just give them some feedback. What did you think of their story?
I loved how you used the chair as an elephant. It was brilliant and it was funny.
I like the use of the mask. I thought that was quite really good because it was a sort of non-speaking part, but it was very there, and I liked that.
That was actually made a couple of years ago, and I thought you might like to know that Jennifer, the woman who was talking in that, who said, I'm going to go on to be on TV and the stage, she did. She was in the productions at the Donmar Warehouse. She wanted to go for the transfer to America, but Homeland Security in America decided she wasn't a suitable person to have a work visa. So we still have a challenge there, but she went on and made it, and I think you'll see her on TV soon.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Kim. We'll talk to you a bit later on about Clean Break, a bit more in depth. But let me introduce Adrian now, who is the Artistic Director and CEO of Cardboard Citizens, who founded the company in 1991. As well as being Cardboard Citizens' Artistic Director and the deviser of a large number of plays with the company, Adrian has worked as Brazilian theatre director Augusto Boal, is that how I say it? Boal. Translator on 4 books. Augusto Boal founded the Theatre of the Oppressed, a school of teaching that Cardboard Citizens adopts. Adrian was previously Associate Director of London Bubble. Cardboard Citizens have been making life-changing theatre with and for homeless people for over 20 years. They tell stories from other worlds, stories that help their tellers get a handle on their lives. To quote one of their members, I think it's about feeling valued, being seen, and feeling that you have a voice. Adrian, can you give us a little bit more information on your work with the Cardboard Citizens?
Yes, is this working? I don't really know quite what to say because we're sort of talking at you. There are lots of overlaps between our organizations, and we know each other quite well, actually, as organizations. So I'm slightly afraid of duplicating what has gone before. So I'll try to be brief. We work with homeless and ex-homeless people. Theatre is at the center of everything that we do. Now it is physically at the center of the building that we occupy, which lends a certain clarity to proceedings when people come and visit. I suppose there are about 3 we're interested in theatre as a force for change. I don't know, those of you, have any of you read Augusto Boal? Are you familiar with the Theatre of the Oppressed? Well, do it tomorrow. He's a great change maker in theatre, and we started by using a particular mode of his called forum theatre, which uses theatre as a site of debate, if you like. It's an interactive theatrical form. It involves showing a play, and then after the showing of the play, the second half is what is called the forum, which invites the participation of the audience. The work we do about change is about personal change, of course, but also about social change. And again, I suspect this is the thing which unites us on this panel. we're going in a minute, I think, to see a little video, and I can't even remember this one. These guys found it. But I strongly suspect that it's a fundraising-oriented video, and therefore I strongly suspect it has a particular slant. We'll see. What I want to say, really, is one of the things I want to say is I really like the title of this event, Social Disruption. And I think probably most of our videos would appear to go almost against that. They are tame and well-behaved. They will tend to say, oh yes, you're helping people here. Okay, you're improving the world here. And they'll tend to steer away from the messier sides of things. But actually, my guess is that all of us up here are interested in a form of social activism and are interested, yes, in disrupting things, not just sort of sticking plastering things, not just sort of repairing things, but trying to rearrange things, because there are many things wrong. I was very struck by Lou Kemp mentioning "have your circumstances changed," which is, of course, a very familiar phrase to people who come to Cardboard Citizens. Last year, we made a piece of work which toured nationally, called Benefit by the writer Sarah Woods, and it told 3 short stories which revolved around the recent changes in the benefit system. And one of the things that struck us, I should say a little bit about where we play. We started playing in hostels and day centres, gradually moved into a wider range of venues, including theatres, including prisons, and that's where we kind of are now, that kind of mix. This tour I'm referring to, Benefit, went to theatres up and down the country, and the audience that it attracted was a regular audience or whatever, and also wherever we go, we try to ensure that at least 10% of our audience has experienced homelessness, so that involves a degree of outreach. The discussions were very, very interesting afterwards. The debates were very interesting, and it really did feel that we were doing something quite useful, even if only in the minor sense of giving people a hint of what these changes, which have been brought in mostly pretty surreptitiously, mostly quite cleverly in a way that we would scarcely notice, have wrought on people's lives, on regular people's lives. And it felt that we were doing something quite usefully socially disruptive there, I have to say. Finally, what do we do now? Well, our work is a mix of that kind of work, which is theatre, which goes to that variety of venues, performed by a mix of trained and untrained actors, homegrown actors, actors we've grown, ex-homeless people, but also from time to time people who haven't had that experience, working on a professional basis, on a professional contract with the same expectations. A very common journey is that people will meet us first by seeing a show in a hostel. They'll participate in the second part of the evening. They'll get into it. Then we'll say, come and do workshops at our place. Then we have a program of activities fairly broadly similar to what a Clean Break offer, except they're not gender specific. And again, all those outcomes are aimed for, that we can, all those socially desirable outcomes. So that's the second thing we do. We have a whole tranche of support and advice we can offer members. Again, similarly, we make it possible for our members to attend workshops and activities by supporting them with travel, by supporting them with meal allowances and so on. Otherwise, they simply wouldn't be able to do it. So there's the workshop program we do, there's the support program we offer, and there's the touring theatre that we make. That's really about it. Last thing is in about a year's time, it'll be our 25th birthday. We're all quite venerable organizations, actually, on stage here. I dread to think of the combined age of our organizations. amazing we've survived. It's not that easy. And part of our celebration will be producing a season of plays, new commissions, short plays from writers, a bit like Nicholas Kent's Afghan season a few years ago, looking at the history of housing in this country. I think that's probably enough preface for this video, which I'm as interested to see as you.
Stop! Everybody has a loud, screaming question. What if? What if? What if there was someone else I was supposed to be? When did I choose this life I have? And if I chose it, how do I ever get back? Is this who I am? Is this my fate? Or am I only falling? Is this what it feels to be alive? Or am I alone?
Cardboard Citizens started some 19 years ago. The intention was to use theatre to create a place where people could talk about change, homeless people could rehearse changes in their lives, and a wider general public could perhaps be informed about the issues that homeless people face. One of the services that we offer is advice and guidance. So we have dedicated staff members whose expertise is in guiding people to any form of help really that they might like.
I first got introduced to Cardboard Citizens when I was at a hostel, and I see one of their flyers like on the wall, and I'd always kind of like been interested in doing drama. I started doing it when I was a little kid, and then from there I got into quite a lot of trouble and gone to jail and all them kind of things there. And so I came out of jail, went into a hostel, and I think Cardboard Citizens kind of like helped me to turn my life around a bit really, because since I've been there I've been sort of like keeping busy going to drama classes, and I'm a board rep with Cardboard Citizens now, and I don't get into any more trouble really.
Forum theatre is a form of theatrical debate. So you watch the play and you think, oh, she shouldn't do that, she should do this.
Which one of those stories, had you been in our main character's shoes, you felt you might have done something different?
In the second half of the evening, the actual forum part of the evening, the audience is invited to intervene, to take the character's place, and to rehearse ideas which they think might improve the character's situation.
When it comes to those moments where you feel you've done something different, you just shout stop. You come up here and you try out your idea.
It's about empowerment. It's about theatrical debate and rehearsal of the possibility of change.
Let me just stop there. What is it you really want, as Lucy? What is it you really want that you're not getting?
I want to arrive at a point where I don't want anything anymore, where I can recognise the difference between what I want and what I need.
When I was homeless, I was selling The Big Issue, and I got to hear about them auditioning for a panto. They're really important for British theatre as well as for homelessness, but they really still keep it on a human level, and they're accessible for everybody and available.
You're running this show, you're writing this script, and you're in this fight, and there's more to come. Tell it like you mean it, because I want to believe. I want to believe in happy endings.
Cardboard Citizens enjoys the support of a lot of individuals and organisations in many different ways. Obviously we have staff and volunteers actually delivering the work. We have supporters trusts and foundations, individuals. Some people give their time, some people give us money. All of it is welcome, all of it is necessary. To continue doing the work, we need all the help we can get.
Thank you, Adrian. Thirdly, we have Amit Sharma. Hello. Who's the Associate Director of Graeae, who first worked with the company on their Missing Piece training course and has gone on to work as an actor and director at the BBC, the National Theatre, Hampstead Theatre, Theatre Royal Stratford East and the Unicorn. Amit led the company's involvement with the Paralympic Games opening ceremony in 2012, where they performed to a worldwide audience of 2 billion. Graeae is a force for change in theatre. It breaks down barriers, challenges preconceptions, and places disabled artists centre stage. The company champions accessibility and provides a platform for new generations of deaf and disabled talent through the creation of their trailblazing theatre. Amit, would you like to continue that introduction?
I will. I'll make a slight correction because
Okay.
I can't take all the credit for the Paralympics opening ceremony because I had nothing to do with it.
Oh.
It was Jenny Seeley, who's our artistic director, who was a co-artistic director of the Paralympic ceremony, and when she became when she went over to the big sports day in 2012, as she likes to call it, I became the associate director, kind of looking over the artistic kind of work for the company over that period. And I didn't sink the ship, so I must have done a good enough job to still be in position now. I'll just tell you a little bit about Graeae, and perhaps a little bit of my history with it too. So Graeae, there's a joke in the company that Graeae is spelled Graeae, and when you first kind of see it, it's kind of how do you pronounce it? And for a company that champions accessibility, the name doesn't do us any favors. So it comes from Greek mythology. It's Perseus. He was trying to find Medusa. He doesn't know where she is. Her sisters, the Graeae sisters, know where she is. So he goes to them, knocks on their door, says, "Can you tell me where she is, please? I want to cut off her head." They kind of go no, with good reason. They share an eye and a tooth together, so those are their resources, and they share their resources with each other. Seeing this, that's not a pun, Perseus takes the eye and the tooth, and he goes, "I'm not going to give you these back until I find out where Medusa is. I'm not going to give you these back." So defenseless and screaming, the Graeae sisters do, and rather than giving back the eye and the tooth, he throws them into the river. And I think for Graeae, we're not defenseless, but we're certainly screaming. And I kind of echo Adrian's comments about the social disruption aspect of the talk. Nabil Shaban and Richard Tomlinson. Nabil was a performer, and he really wanted to be on across all the stages in the country. And whenever he went for auditions, he was told, "No, you can't." And it was because of the way he looked. He's a wheelchair user. And he got really, really frustrated, and he kind of stuck two fingers up to the industry and kind of went, "Right, if you're not going to give me the opportunity, I'm going to create the opportunities for myself." So a lot of Graeae's early work was in and around the experiences of deaf and disabled people, and presenting that. And over the years, we've kind of, with our new writing work, we've kind of included classical work, and we've kind of reframed it. Because it's for us, it's about going, we can do the shows just like everyone else if we're given the opportunity to. So the idea is that we're not disabled, it's actually society disabling us. In a disability context, it's the physical access, and also it's the attitudinal access too. And I won't go into too much about that because I think that's probably obvious. So a really good example of the idea of barriers being put up before deaf and disabled people was when I came to Graeae in 1999, was on the actor training course Missing Piece. And Jenny set up the course simply because drama schools, they weren't providing access for deaf and disabled people to become actors. So rather than actually marginalizing a lot of the tutors and a lot of the drama schools, actually there was a collaboration where Graeae had set up a course which took care of the access needs for each of the participants, but also we got the experience of working with tutors from RADA, tutors who were working as freelancers, a whole mix and kind of range, to give us the tools to then go out and become freelance artists, which is what I kind of eventually ended up doing. Like I said, in 2011, I came back to Graeae as Associate Director, and I was given the opportunity to do a kind of our biggest outdoor show, and you'll see it when in the video that's kind of coming up. And I always kind of teased Jen, because even though she did the Paralympics, I was the one who did the biggest show, the first biggest show, which was artistically led by deaf and disabled people. So there's a little tick where my kind of desk is. The work that we do is both national and it's international. Currently, just to give you an idea of how things are at the moment, I'm rehearsing a show written by Jack Thorne called The Solid Life of Sugar Water, which is doing a tour and is going to the National Theatre for the first time in the company's history, which we're incredibly excited about. Jenny's in Sri Lanka. On her Facebook pictures, it seems like she's drinking a lot of cocktails and sitting by the pool, but actually she's doing workshops with deaf and disabled people out there and setting up a program of work to kind of try to inspire the next generation of deaf and disabled artists out there. Over at Graeae Studios, which is just around the corner from Rich Mix, we're just on Kingston Road. I think the Jeffrey Museum get a whole load of, they get a lot of free publicity from us, because we're right next door to the Jeffrey Museum. We hope that the Jeffrey Museum are going, we're right next door to Graeae Theatre Company, but I doubt that's true. At the studio, we've got our next generation of artists, the ensemble, and they're on an 8-month kind of course, a little bit like the course that I was kind of on, and they're in the process of starting their rehearsals for their new show, which will tour into schools, and they've got a showcase as well. And I think for us, we're always trying to challenge ourselves, not only in the work that we create and the work that we kind of do, but actually the representation of disability too. So we have one of our ensemble members who's a wheelchair user, whose only communication that he has is using eye gaze technology. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's kind of very similar to what Stephen Hawking kind of uses. The challenge, not only for us but also for the visiting tutors, is to kind of to look at someone like that and kind of go, that person has the potential to be a performer, an artist, and there's the initial kind of real scared, kind of like WTF, what is this sort of thing? How can I engage, because of my practice being so conventional and so one way, that it's how do I do voice work, or how do I teach Shakespeare to someone whose communication is using through eye gaze? And it's really weird, because his eye gaze technology, when he's saying his sentence, is also in an American accent. And he's a Chelsea fan, which I always rib him about too, being a Liverpool one. So these kind of challenges come up, and for us, they're not challenges, they're creative possibilities. I think that's the most important thing, and we use that in our work. So we try to use British Sign Language, we use creative captioning, and we use audio description. Not something that's just perfunctory, but actually it's creative. And the potential of what that can do to a piece of text, whether it's a new piece of writing or if it's a classic text too.
Okay, well, let's see the video, please.
Graeae Theatre Company. Graeae is a force for change in world-class theatre. Diary of an Action Man, 2003. This immensely expressive piece tackles its issues in a forthright, unconventional, and energetic manner. Time Out. Bent, 2004. This compelling and powerful production. The Stage. Blasted, 2006. Shocking but brilliant. We are left washed out, touched, and thrillingly appalled. Evening Standard. Signs of a Star-Shaped Diva, 2010. A remarkable piece of theatre. British Theatre Guide. The Garden, 2010. Jenny Seeley has done it again. Disability Arts Online. The Limbless Night, A Tale of Rights Reignited, 2013. A stunning mixture of drama, music, dance and aerial acrobatics. The Huffington Post. Belonging, 2014. Pioneering in the way it uses many different kinds of language, physical, spoken and sign, to create layers of meaning. The Guardian. The Iron Man, 2013. The Fable's beauty became all the more magical for its scenery, massive puppets and setting. The latest 7. Against the Tide, 2010. Beautiful to watch and effortlessly flowing. Disability Arts Online. Prometheus Awakes, 2012. There are no limitations here, just glorious liberation. The Guardian. Opera, 2014. It truly is a show conceived with magnificence. The Big Issue. Reasons to be Cheerful, 2010. A Graeae Theatre Company triumph. The Guardian. Graeae Theatre Company. Graeae creates theatre that matters and is a force for change. By championing accessibility and providing a platform for new generations of artists, Graeae leads the way in pioneering trailblazing theatre both in the UK and internationally. That was my professional voice up there. This is my real one.
I wondered if that was you. Okay, well, the first thing I want to open up to you guys then is, why is theatre over other creative art forms the thing that is so powerful for even the members of your group, would you say?
I'll waffle on there. I think it's because it's about telling stories, and it's about telling stories about ourselves. And you've seen from the kind of work we do, we all tell stories in different ways, but it's about sharing different perspectives. It's also about learning to talk. And if you're somebody whose voice has never been given a space to be heard, or if you're thought to be outside, you don't have much space to talk. You don't often have the confidence to talk. So having a space where you can tell your story and then work with people to help you tell it in an even more creative context, I think is really important. But most of all, it's about sharing stories, and it is a collaborative act. You can be a painter or a writer and work alone and create wonderful pieces of art or writing. But theatre is very rarely done alone. It's a team process, and actually I think what you learn by working together, and as actually both Adrian and Amit have said, it's really about working with the people that we're inviting into our organisations, not telling stories about them. The stories come from the women who've been in prison. The stories come from the people who've lived on the streets. The stories come from people who have lived with a disability and made it part of their star and a badge of honour and interest rather than something that puts them apart. That's my waffle.
Does anyone else like
You want us all to waffle? Can we waffle?
You can pick and choose if you don't.
Well, I mean, I don't have much to add to that. I mean, I think that's right. You know, there's this, it's just a very powerful place, theatre.
Yeah.
Here we are, raised up in the light. You're sitting down there in the dark, slightly below us. And the transmission of messages from here to there is very powerful. That's why people do theatre. That's why people go to the theatre. So when you enable people who have not had that space to be given to them before, and you place those people, like, I mean, I always cry when I look at Reasons to be Cheerful, just the most joyous piece of work imaginable, and you see the significance of those people on stage and who's doing it and the joy with which they're doing it. It sort of redoubles every joy that was already intrinsic in that music and that making. So it's just a powerful place, and it should be available to as many people as possible.
I agree.
In that sense, then, how do you go about building confidence in? Because it is, you know, appearing in a theatrical show of any kind is very intimidating to people that haven't even, as you say, spoken out about their own experiences or anything like that before. So how do you kind of start breaking down those walls?
I mean, I think from our perspective, you know, it depends on people's journeys. So when certain performers come to Graeae, they may not necessarily identify as being disabled in the social model concept. So they're going through a journey of kind of because disability in a way is it's still a bit of a strange one, and it still has a very a subclass to it in many ways. I know before I came to the company, I always looked at non-disabled people and kind of gone, well, you know, that's what I want to be. And then having come into Graeae, it allowed me to kind of go, I can just be me. And once I understood that, then I could get on with the job of creating work. So I think that for Graeae, that's almost the first thing, is allowing those personal journeys and those personal discoveries, not in a kind of inspirational kind of like, you know, kind of wishy-washy way, but genuinely, you know, because out there in the world, the messages that are coming through are completely the opposite. It's allowing that confidence to happen in a very safe environment.
Do you think there's something in the physicality of theatre being so collaborative and in the moment that makes people trust in a way that they wouldn't with other creative forms?
I think that you've got to do something very. You've got to do something very, very quickly because of the time that you have when you're in a rehearsal room. So immediately you've got a time pressure to create a piece of work, and for you to get the performers and the whole team actually to kind of work and to kind of produce something which like Adrian said has a definite layer of meaning. So I think the time aspect of rehearsals kind of puts a pressure on that. You don't have time to mess around.
Yeah. And just to add something to that, from Clean Break's perspective, and the all-female context, I think what we try and do and find we need to do is to create a safe space for women, first of all, because a lot of the women we work with have issues which have led to them reoffending, mental health issues, addiction issues, being victims of domestic violence. And we've got a too big prison population in this country. Women are a very small part of it, but there are still some 8,000 women going into prison every year, but they're part of a very male environment. A lot of the prison officers are men. It's a prison system designed for men. There's very little, even now, attention that's for them. So they've been living in a very male-dominated and sometimes violent society. So coming into Clean Break, which is a building where you press the button, you get in, there's a little courtyard, and then there's the building with the 3 studios, is a safe space. And that's an important part of the start. And then I think the discipline as well, because a lot of the people we work with, it's pretty true for Adrian, if it may not be so true for Graeae, have had very chaotic lives. And to give them that discipline to get back on track that you have to have if you're working in theatre, and say, come on, you're a professional now, you've got to be here on time, you've got to work together, this is a team thing. Because actually a lot of the women we work with have got incredibly loud voices and big personalities. That's not always the issue. It's not timid, quiet women always, some of them are, but they've been using those voices to mask what's going on rather than to get behind them. So ours is very noisy and building, but actually having the discipline of theatre to work through has been really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey. And I think at Cardboard Sits, it's a different kind of safe space. An interesting point when we ask people why they like it there, it's about the lack of judgment. Okay, as people say, I can be here and I won't be judged. That seems to be a really important thing. So it's that community which becomes a place in which people can start a journey and grow. And sometimes that journey is quite a long journey. People are very glib about change, and actually change is really hard won and easily lost, in my experience. If one thinks of any major change one's made in one's own life, like giving up fags or something like that, you know, not easy and easy to slip back. So the experience of homelessness is a scarring experience, and it isn't just about a home, it stays with you here, and it's usually a combination of a whole sequence of events, which might well involve prison, might well involve the breakdown of all that supported your life, if you ever had that support. So to put back in place the structures which allow people to find themselves and be themselves and express themselves to others, it's a journey. And, you know, people will often be in contact with us. 5 years is really not uncommon for when they start coming to a workshop, gradually developing, discovering, I like doing this, I like doing that, to ultimately performing in a professional contract with all those disciplines, which doesn't always work. Sometimes people slip back, it hasn't worked, you know. So it's a judgment call also when to offer that opportunity and challenge to people, you know.
Adrian, can you tell us a little bit more about the forum theatre idea? Because I found that really interesting, the idea of the first performance, and then on the second performance they can say what they want to. It's sort of choose your own adventure kind of style, really.
Sort of, okay. I mean, I'll try to be as brief as I can about it. You present a play which should be like any well-made play. It should have all the elements that good theatre has in it: suspense, character, drama, whatever, anything that is in a decent piece of theatre. Sometimes people think that forum theatre needs to be, that it's just role play. It's not just role play. Role play, it seems to me, is the rather less interesting country cousin, have I offended anybody, of forum theatre. Forum theatre is drama, theatre, it's the full thing. So our shows usually last just under an hour, something like that. We have arrived at a format where often we're telling 3 linked stories, because our audiences, even within the homeless sector, are very different. So they might be a women's hostel, they might be a hostel primarily for refugees, they might be a men's prison, there might be an older people, younger people. So if we have 3 stories with 3 different protagonists, it's likely that our audience will at least identify with one of those protagonists. They have to identify enough to get angry, to think that shouldn't be like that. And to get angry enough in the second half of the evening when we invite interventions to shout stop. The act of shouting stop is a symbolic act as well as part of the game. It's a big thing to say to your life, stop, I must do something. And it is really the seduction of the game is that people are provoked and they're up here before they realize where they've got to and they then try their idea on stage. And their idea is not humored. It's not, most of it doesn't work. The other people fight back like they would fight back in real life. Nobody's patronizing anybody here. But in a playful way, ideas are tested, developed, strategies are shared. It all sounds so dreadfully earnest, but it's an incredibly fun thing. There's a huge amount of laughter. And a form of, liberation was a word that came there. A form of liberation starts at that point, honestly starts at that point. So that's what I'd say.
Can I just say, there was I saw a cardboard stitch show in a school, and I was watching the first half of it, and then the Joker came in, and the play was about, I think the play was about a young person being killed. It was about 10 years ago or something. But the Joker, when the event kind of happened, the Joker came in and said to a young person right at the front, "Did you see it?" And then the person was like, "Wow." It was really electric because it was really kind of going, it was breaking the fourth wall, but it was going, "You've just seen this, you're going to get, now you're really in it." And then saying to another person, "Did you see it? Did you see it?" And none of the young people said anything because I think in their head they were kind of going, "Do I grass or not? What's the game here?" It was incredible. It was really, really great.
To talk a bit more on the social disruption side of things, like where you perform and obviously the material you perform is so like intrinsic to whether you're going to socially disrupt and those kind of things. How do you choose what you're going to perform and the plays and everything, or do you kind of just? Well, yeah, how do you choose?
A couple of processes. One is either we kind of commission a writer to write something, or we invite submissions. Okay. There's opportunities for established playwrights to kind of put in their ideas, but we've also got two or three writing opportunities within the company. One is called Play Labs, so we ask people to send in a submission, and we go if there's, and those submissions are like a spark of an idea, so they don't have to be fully formed, but we kind of go if the submission is successful, we'll give you a certain budget for you to pay yourself, performers to have an opportunity to try that idea out. The other opportunity you've got very quickly is a writing program, which is a year long. There's many different facets to that program, but the idea is after the end of the year, the 5 writers on that course will have written a second draft of a full-length play.
Again, I just want to, it's more comfortable perhaps to talk about each other's work than to talk about one's own work. How does the social disruption happen? Amit has just directed a wonderful production which deals broadly, amongst other things, with sex and grief. I suppose, sex and grief, the loss of a baby. And it happens that it's performed by people with disabilities. So much disruption is going on in one go, talking about all those things. Okay, one sees quite a lot about grief. Very little talk about sex, and I have to tell you, it's quite graphic. In its conversation about that subject. Sex and disabled people, wow, when do we hear about that? So it's simply the act sometimes of putting some of these subject matters on the stage is in itself doing masses of social disruption. And you can get to see the show. That's the show that Amit is talking about, The Secret Life of Sugar Water?
Solid Life. It's a really easy title to remember.
And I think that's a really important point about where we put our work on, because I think for me, the biggest challenge that Clean Break has is talking to ourselves. I don't mean literally to ourselves. I mean to people who are already believers, who are good rich mixers, Guardian readers, course they know that women are having a terrible time in prison, that they need support when they come out. Our challenge is to get to people who aren't necessarily aware of those issues and don't know how they can help. And for us, trying to get outside a conventional, I mean, Graeae does it in spades. You can see from the material, having outside performances, you catch people you wouldn't normally catch. You've done it as well by going into site-specific places. And we're trying to do that now, going to festivals and taking that prison van. It was also parked outside the National Theatre. We did it as part of a day about criminal justice that they did around the play Our Country's Good, which is a Timberlake Burtonbacher's play about women and prison convicts. And to see that prison van there, and people were curious. I don't know how many people in this room have been inside a prison van. I work in prison sometimes, and I haven't been in one. It's a pretty extraordinary experience to go in there, and when that door closes, to realize how claustrophobic it feels, and to hear those stories of 3 women who are being transported, 3 very different women, to a prison, and how long it takes, and how hot it is, and how they're chained up in a small box, regardless of what they've done. Only 5% of women in prison are in there for a violent offence, yet they're chained up when they go to prison on the journey. Those are ways that we're trying to get the story to different people, people who aren't just regular theatre goers. I think we all learn from what each other are doing.
Chained up?
No, because there are 3 boxes. There are 3 little booths that the prisoner goes in, like tiny individual railway carriages, and they have the door shut, and they have the handcuffs on, because it's so easy to get out of a prison van, although we know it can be done. And then the audience, there are about 8 people who can get in at any one time and are standing there outside. And you can only just see the faces of the women through these little sort of train-like windows. And at the end of it's only a 20-minute play, too claustrophobic otherwise, they step out as they arrive at the prison, and you see, and I won't tell you in case you see it, that they're all very different kinds of women and in different stages of their lives. And you see them as real individual characters coming through, and that's what the play's about, really. Each of us are individuals with a story that deserves space to be heard.
So it's important then to keep pushing those kind of boundaries and being provocative. Is that as important as doing traditional material or anything? Do you have to be putting stuff out there to kind of break those boundaries? Is that your central thing, or do you have to balance that with other?
The story's the thing, I think. The story's the thing. I don't think you can superimpose an idea to kind of get that through. I think it's got to come from the heart of the play and the characters, and then you can mess around with it a bit, with the form of it. But I think it has to come from the story. Yeah, it's so important.
Can I just say, though, that we're 3 of us sitting here, we're all sort of corralled into a neat little sector of the outsiders, but I think a lot of really good theatre is socially disruptive. I went to see a quite conventional production of Richard II at the Barbican on Sunday. It was David Tennant's last night. He was really good. That's an incredibly socially disruptive play. Straight Shakespeare, about power in this country and who holds the power, and how England, in this case the focus is on England, can be destroyed if power's in the wrong hands, and how you wear power, and how you display power, and how you share power. And we're all doing that. We're doing it for people who have particular voices. But I think a lot of the very best theatre, George Bernard Shaw, Enron, Lucy Preble's Gate play, Sarah Kane, going back into the National Theatre, they're all disruptive. You don't have to be disruptive to be great theatre, but we're not just a little group of outsiders on our own. I think a lot of theatre people have loud, disruptive voices.
All right, well, fab. I think that's a good time to pause. Do we have any questions from the floor before we finish? No? Okay, well, thank you so much. Round of applause, please, to our speakers who've been brilliant today.